Get ready for an exhilarating journey with Insight into Insight, all things society. Brought to you by Intelligent Office, Nashville Downtown, the virtual office revolutionizing business success. I'm your host, Lord Danavan Hylton, International Business Advisor and co-mastermind of Hylton Elite Marketing Agency, a growing sales and marketing consulting firm promoting brands in urban areas of the United States to increase their customer base and community presence. Join me as we dive into the world of influential business moguls, civic leaders, and community icons. Get your pens and papers ready as we explore the juiciest, most sensitive topics that ignite curiosity and fuel ambition. It's time for you to position yourself for unparalleled success. Don't miss the incredible opportunities at Intelligent Office, Nashville Downtown, your key to flexible workspaces and virtual business support. Reach out today at 615-928-1900 or visit 315 Deaderick Street, Suite 1550, Nashville, Tennessee 37238. Together, we're shaping a bold, dynamic future. Let's uncover the issues and empower success. Now, it's time for Insight into Insight, all things societal. Let's get started. All right, family, welcome back to another fun podcast episode of Insight into Insight, all things societal, presented by Intelligent Office, Nashville Downtown. And we're going to jump into a very exciting conversation. I'm here with my friend, managing partner, Chris Johnson at Royal Events and Social in Spring Hill, Tennessee, which is Middle Tennessee. Chris, thank you for joining me. If you don't mind me saying, most definitely. Where are we sitting? If you don't mind me asking, first and foremost.
So right now we're in the privacy suite here at Res, the venue at Royal Events and Social. We just call it the Res, but we're here in the privacy suite, which is intended for things such as this here.
Nice. And you get a chance to check out the private suite as well as Royal Events and Socials by clicking the link, checking out the video. We actually have a tour. Chris gave us this tour, so make sure you check that out so you can see really what this venue space has to offer. And so, Chris, before we get into this conversation, I really want to share your story, who you are, what you're doing in the community. But if you can remember, how did we first originally connect?
Through a mutual friend, compadre, all those good things. OC, yes. Otis Carter, just a terrific, I can't say it enough, terrific individual. And 100%. It's just really, we started working together. I think the first time that you and I actually did anything together was at one of the toy drives that OC and his father was doing up in North Nashville.
That's right.
And then shortly after that, you guys engaged me to work with Team USA, introduced me to Coach K, Coach Z, and all those guys, and we've just been really just working together ever since then on multiple situations, multiple projects, being able to do toy drives, coat drives, and just being out engaged in the community, and that meant a lot to me because since I moved here in 2005, that was something that I missed from back when I was in Florida, where I was a lot more active in the community. But then once as I was able to reach, it's funny because I actually met OC through music.
Okay.
I was working with a team on doing a show here based in Nashville, Ville City Videos. Okay. And they actually had brought Squeak on to play Squeak on for an interview on one of the episodes, and at that point in time, I met OC's partner, one of his partners. I met Leo.
Gotcha.
And so after that, shortly after that, we ended up meeting up at one of the studios that they were working in at the time. And we just kind of hit it off after that, and then we just kind of kept on just working together, finding ways to collaborate. So it's just a small world, and I think that's the lesson is that you never know where one chance interaction can grow into something much bigger than what you even envisioned just from that first time interacting and meeting a person.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give you an example of that. Like you said, we met for community activity, a toy drive, worked together on a project or two, and is very excited as you opened up your event space just a few days ago. My consulting firm having the opportunity to do the contract on the marketing and let people know. And so again, it's about, like you said, you never know, and so you always want to put your best foot forward because you're gonna meet, if you're doing it right, you're gonna meet producers. And speaking of producers, I don't want to dismiss USA Kickboxing. I don't want to miss Mr. All Purpose, Mr. Otis Carter IV. I don't want to dismiss Leo, Forward Entertainment, Triple Play Squeak. These are all producers in the Nashville community that actually we met through OC, through Otis Carter, and it's been a great experience. And one thing that I learned or recognized when I first met Chris was about his business. Something about him. I don't know what it was. But you could tell that from a corporate side, though, if that makes sense,
Yeah, absolutely.
Respectfully, in our community, we need more of that. We have a lot, and we're continuing to move forward. I'm not saying we don't, but we definitely need to push that perspective when we're doing business,
right.
Which is what made me comfortable in doing business with you. Rocked and roll, like you said, USA Kickboxing. I believe your consulting business oversaw the video production, I want to say.
Correct.
The streaming for the USA National Kickboxing Championships.
That's correct. We actually we did the first one in February of 2021, the first nationals that they did here in Nashville, and we've been working with Team USA ever since. We did fights up in Springfield.
Yep.
We did several in Nashville. We actually traveled with Team USA to Italy in 2021, at the end of 2021 in October, for the World Games.
Wow.
So it was a great opportunity, great chance to just meet and being able to work with that team and being able to give them the opportunity to be able to expand again beyond just the physical space of wherever we were located at. Even though those things were held here in Nashville and in Italy, leveraging live streaming and things like that, we were able to take it around the world, regardless of where we were at.
Regardless.
Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. And I really want to jump into your background, if you don't mind. See, running a successful video production company that's now, from what I see at the minimum, international. Just had a grand opening for your entertainment venue. We're going to talk about that in a few seconds. Respectfully, as we built a deeper relationship, I had a chance to experience and be a part of my first investors recruitment process. Literally from the concept of the brand, the idea, putting the presentation together, the material, the presentation for the investors, being a part of a high-end restaurant, and actually breaking down the numbers, the terms, and the agreements.
Right.
And I believe at that process we raised, just in one night, it's like $20,000 raised.
Yeah.
That was my first experience of any of that, just looking, and I know respectfully, I know you're an investor too, as far as, portfolio, real estate, things of that nature, and, being, a black man, person of color, I really like to see that. I'm not saying that that's what it's all about, but we have to produce certain things to get. So if you don't mind, as far as where you are in your career, how did you get started? Because I see you in music a lot, and that's how you and OC met. So if you and OC talking about music, that means y'all really into music. Right. Where did you start, and how has your journey taken you to where you are today? If you don't mind me asking.
Sure. I'll try and give you the cliff notes of it, because if I gave you the whole story, I probably need to hire me a publisher, because
for a book.
I think I might be able to make a book, a fairly interesting read. But in all seriousness, I'm from a small village in Louisiana.
Okay.
My hometown, at population of 500.
Wow.
So, like I said, village, literally defined as a village.
Wow.
And so I was raised, in the country, just a country boy that always had big dreams. My parents always supported, anything, you know, we didn't have a whole lot of money. Hell, we were pretty much poor.
See.
But we were surrounded by love and always encouragement, and they put in us to always dream.
Wow.
And it's funny because as we were preparing for the grand opening last week, I was thinking about when I was a kid. I used to remember my grandfather used to always get up at like 5:30 in the morning, and he would come over. He would because all our family like lived like not too far from each other. So my grandfather would get up. He would walk over to our apartment where we was at, making sure everybody was up, and then he'd walk over to his sisters and her husband and their family house, check on everybody. You know, I was blessed to have my great grandfather. You know, he retired from working on the railroads. Just really having a strong foundation of family values that really taught us the value of relationships, the value of work ethic, the value of just family, and I'll keep talking about that, but it really does all go back to that. And so, you know, my parents sacrificed a lot when I was, you know, in order for me to be. I was a band kid.
Okay.
You know,
what instrument?
Multi-instrumentalist. So I've been doing music all of my life.
Wow. What about your parents or your grandparents? They've been.
So my biological father was a musician, and he was a radio DJ, disc jockey. But him and his band was they put out a couple of records, nice. So I think that's where I got my all my passion for music.
Okay.
And weird story. so my stepdad, who's my dad, because that's who raised me.
I understand.
But and when I talk about family, this is when you talk about it takes a village. You know, my mom and my stepdad always had a great relationship together, but it was also a great relationship that was I never saw any stress between my biological father and my parents.
Oh, wow, that's heavy. No stress.
No stress. In fact, my stepdad actually worked for my biological father years later.
Wow.
So, and I remember as I was in middle school, and this was like when I really started, you know, me and some of my siblings on my dad's side really started to meet. And it was funny because it was me and I have a younger brother. We're literally like months apart.
See.
So, we were in this little band, this little rap group. This is like 80s. And so we were doing the rap thing in middle school, and I'll never forget, and it was before I actually met my brother. It was me and two of my junior high school classmates. And one of those classmates, his uncle was a DJ, and they were DJing with two of my brothers on my dad's side.
I see.
So we went to go cut a little mixtape, and that was like the first time when I really actually got to like interact with my brothers on my dad's side. Like, you know, like really like interacting. You know, when you have a family like that where you things like just our background as African Americans, you know, we have whatever.
I understand.
And it was like, man, we hit it off. And I have a brother, my brother Keith, and we literally look like people used to always say we look like twins. I just have a little darker complexion.
Gotcha.
But so man, when we met and we hooked up and started, and just so come to find out, all of my brothers on my dad's side, they were all doing the DJing thing.
Wow.
And so I was always making beats and stuff like that. So they went home, we went home, and they introduced me to their mom, and Miss Joyce was like, welcomed me into her family as if I was one of her own kids.
Wow.
Now, mind you, and I'm saying this because I think this is very important, and I think it's important for us as black people to hear and understand, because I think we've gotten so far away from family, is I'm a product of my dad was married when him and my mom was together. Now, regardless of whatever the situation was and that relationship, but at the end of the day, Miss Joyce welcomed me into her home as if I was one of her own kids. Now, that's a lot. That's something that most people will never experience or have never experienced. To have someone that this person know that you're a child that was from someone that was with your husband, but this person welcomed me into her home and always treated me like I was one of her own kids. And so, me and my siblings on my dad's side, through Miss Joyce, we pretty much grew up together.
Wow, it's beautiful.
So I have a huge family on both sides. So, I mean, I'm trying not to get over caught up on it, but it's just that means a lot to me because these are all the things that made me who I am. And so I was always surrounded by those people that just always saw things about me. And so as I grew up, just like I said, band kid and just multi-instrumentalist. I started off with French horn, moved to baritone, did tuba, because all of those instruments are in the bass clef, so it was easy to transition between them. And then, I think every person in high school or junior high has dreams of wanting to make the drum line. So
I'm sure.
Of course, I made the drum line in my senior year in high school. So, and then, as I said, we were always doing a little rap thing and things like that. So I was always playing with beats and beat machines. Bought my first little DR 660 Boss drum machine, and we had our little rap group, and I was making beats and stuff like that. I was always better at making beats than I was at rapping. So
Gotcha.
I gave the rapping up a long time ago. I didn't even make it past high school.
What's the name of the group?
It was the Square Boys.
The Square Boys.
Because our neighborhood was called Jackson Square in Natchitoches. That's my hometown. So so my hometown, like there's a village, it's called Natchez. It's about 7 miles south of Natchitoches. It's an Indian name.
I see.
Up in northwest Louisiana. It's, just probably about 45 minutes to an hour south of Shreveport. So I was always closer to Houston and Dallas than I was to New Orleans. So, but yeah, and been doing music, like I said, all my life. After high school, I did a couple of years in the National Guard.
Okay.
Went to college, but I decided I wanted to chase my dreams with the music, and left home. Moved down to Florida in '92.
How'd your family feel about that and the decision, and then deciding to head out? If you don't mind me asking, what was that experience like?
Actually, and there's a story to that as well. So actually, my brother, the brother that's right under me on my mom's side, he had he was getting in some trouble and things like that. So my mom had sent him out to live with my uncle in Florida. And so he started getting homesick. And he was like, man, I'm coming back to Natchez. I was like, nah, you ain't coming back to damn Natchez.
How long was he gone at this point?
He was 80. He only been gone for a few months, because I think he left in like August, because one of his close friends was killed. They were out hanging out and things like that, and they got into this real rumble with some other guys and other kids and things like that, and the kid got killed. And I'll never forget that night, because I remember when he came home and he was covered from head to toe in blood and stuff like that, and he was just totally shook, and so that incident happened. So after his funeral and things like that, my mom was like, enough of this here. You can't be down here with this here. So she sent him to go live with my Uncle Bill, who's again just family, wow. And and he was getting ready to he got homesick, because we never really lived away from our family. And so he was like, man, I'm coming back to Natchez. I ain't gonna stay down here. And I was like, nah, hell no, you ain't coming back to Natchez. So now, mind you, I like I said, I got out of the National Guard. I was in school and stuff like that. So I wasn't really working, so I ain't had no damn money. I was broke as a joke, bro. I ain't know how the hell I was gonna even get to Florida.
Gotcha.
So my aunt actually ended up having a situation where she ended up coming upon some money, and she wanted to take her kids on a trip, and she wanted to take them to Florida. And she was like, but she had never traveled like that, and she was like, hey, I need somebody to ride with me and take the bus. So that was how I got to Florida.
Wow.
My aunt paid for me to ride to Florida with her and her kids, and I didn't have zero. I didn't have a dime to my name.
Wow. How old were your cousins at the time when you were keeping an eye on? I guess
They were 5 and they were like 5 and maybe 3 or maybe 5 and 10 or something like that. I forget their age, but I know they were like younger kids.
That good male presence there, then you just get. I
Yeah,
follow you.
yeah.
Okay, so you're just thinking, I'm gonna get down there, and this opportunity opens up.
Yeah, exactly. God does what He do, man.
Wow.
And so, and the funny story is that damn bus ride took so long. I have never rode a Greyhound bus since then. It took us 2 days to take a trip that was
Shout out
supposed
to
to take
Greyhound.
16 hours. Man.
Was it the weather or?
No. So we had to take, with Greyhound, you got to stop in these different stops.
Right.
Our first stop, we got a clown get on the damn bus with a knife, and they got to call the police and shit.
Oh, like that.
So we ended up getting held up at the first stop. Well, because of that, when we got to our next stop, we had to transfer buses. That bus was gone.
Oh, yep.
So, man, so they routed us through all these different low weight routes to get down, and I was like, oh my God, I would never ride another Greyhound bus again, and I ain't been on one since then. That was the
I know
worst.
to get you for your gift next time, the Greyhound tickets.
Ooh, Lord, yes. Ooh, no, don't do it. Ooh, shit.
Don't waste your money, huh?
No.
That's awesome. So you get to Florida.
Yeah.
What was that experience like, and how did that lead you to Nashville? If you feel my
Oh man, Florida, early '90s. Ooh, fun times.
Nice.
Oh my God, it was fun times.
How old were you at this time? Would you say?
I was 20.
20 years old.
20 years
Man.
old. Bright lights, big city. So I moved down to Tampa, St. Petersburg. Country boy, and just running wild.
What were some of the bigger differences that you noticed from coming from Louisiana, going into
Culture shock.
Okay.
Culture shock.
Okay.
Everything was different. I mean, because, like I say, I had never lived in the city ever, and it was totally different. And and they say you take them out of the country and you just get buck wild. so the first couple of years was pretty wild, but man, we had some good times. But it's funny because after I moved there, but again get back to the family and just work ethic and all those things like that, and it was like, okay, as soon as I get here, we were staying with my uncle and his family. I was like, okay, got there the day before Thanksgiving in '92, and I had my job. I got a job at the damn McDonald's that was on the other side of town. Now, mind you, again, I've never rode a city bus, so I'm walking from my uncle's house to damn McDonald's, which was probably about 5 miles from his house, because I ain't know nothing about catching no damn city buses. So once I found out how to ride a city bus, then it was cool. 'Cause I just jumped to the bus stop and then
How long was that process before you actually got on the city bus when you first landed?
It was a few weeks.
Okay.
It was a few weeks.
Oh man. That's a walk for you.
That's a walk. But when you grew up in the country, walking 5 miles ain't nothing, to be honest with you. I mean, hell, we used to walk and ride bikes with no thought. I mean, we would literally walk into these empty fields. I'm talking about. Imagine now you in the country and all you got is cotton fields everywhere you look. This how close we were to the cotton fields. We sit on my grandparents' porch and we watch the crop dusters come down and spray all that shit. That's another thing. Oh man, shit, man, you giving me down.
Good stuff.
Cause that's why my first dream was to be. I wanted to fly jets. I wanted to fly planes because I used to love, even though that's putting all that damn poison, because that shit was come down on us, man.
I can see that.
Because the cotton field was the house was here, the cotton field was across the street.
Yeah, it's gonna touch you, man. That's just.
So they doing that shit coming down, man. But then it was about 50 miles from an Air Force base down in Alexandria. So they was always have those Air Force drills, and then we'd have those damn A-10 Warthogs used to be flying over.
Wow.
And man, that shit that used to be. I loved. I actually took aerospace in high school.
Wow.
Because I wanted to fly planes, but I was fucking blind as a bat. So Hey, Lacey wasn't around back then, so my Air Force dreams.
That was it.
Hey, that was it. That's how I ended up in the damn National Guard.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha.
The Army National Guard at that.
Wow.
So.
Wow. So what experiences did you take away from, I guess, Florida, and how that transitioned you into the man that you are now and the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So I met my not too long. Like I said, had that wild and out period, and so our family actually ended up moving down to Florida with us. So after me and my brother got down there, like I said, was working. I got a job like within a week or two of moving to Florida, and by January of '93, we had our own apartment.
Gotcha.
So it was like,
nice.
Hey, we're not hey, I like and love my uncle for giving us the spot, but I gotta have my own.
I understand.
So we got our apartment, and then shortly afterwards, the rest of our family moved down. My mom, my dad, and our brothers moved down. In fact, my youngest brother, he could never really get adjusted to the city, so he ended up moving back home with my aunt and graduated from school from back there. So it was just always, like I say, that we were a big family, so it didn't matter. We always stayed whether it was with an aunt, grandparents, or whatever, and it was vice versa, whether it was us or one of our cousins that would come. One of my cousins, Lord bless the dead, Terrell. He moved to Florida with the rest of the family.
Gotcha.
And spent a good while out there with us, and just always, so that was part of it. And a couple of years after that, I ended up meeting my kid's mom. We ended up getting married, so I got married, fairly young. We had a couple of kids. The marriage didn't work, but at the end of the day, I gained a great set of in-laws and family. They were always 100% behind me. In fact, it was my ex-father-in-law that actually got me gave me on my career path.
Okay.
Because he worked for Martin Marietta for probably 50 years, out there working on he was an engineer, but he also taught computers classes at the local community college.
What year was this?
This was probably 94, 95.
Computers were still kind of...
It was brand new.
Wow.
I mean, my first computer was an IBM XT, and it was probably about as big as that desk. But it is funny because he said he was like, and at this time, I didn't know what the hell I really wanted to do. Hell, I was working at one point, bro. I worked 3 jobs at one time. I was working a Burger King right here. It was a Taco Bell right here and a McDonald's right here, all on the same drag.
Oh, man.
And I worked at all 3 of those spots during the same time period.
Wow.
So on any given day, I was working at 2 of them on the same day. So on off days, I would be working these 2. Another day, these 2. You do what you have to do.
Do what you have to do.
And
wow.
So then he sat me down. He was like, "Hey, you want to learn about computers?" And I was like, "Sure." It seemed like it'd be cool. I just naturally took to it, and he started. And it's funny because I thought the first thing I was going to do is he was going to let me just start working on the computers and shit. Nah, I didn't go there. You know what he did?
What's that?
He's a teacher. He gave me a stack of damn books and told me to read them.
Okay, before you touch the hardware.
Now, lucky for me, I was always a bookworm.
Okay.
So I have a passion. I love to read. I love to just feed my mind. So it was exciting just to sit there and read. Another thing, third from my dad. So I caught a bath in the library. But so, and again, my parents just, oh man, it's just crazy, man, when I think back on all the things they did and what they put into us. So we were one of the few households that actually had the full set of the encyclopedia.
Wow.
The hardback Encyclopedia Britannica. And my dad would literally just sit there and read encyclopedias. So he was like an avid reader. So that's where I get it from. I love to read and we sit there and have these conversations and things like that. And it's funny because we have all these conversations, but then as we got older, none of us were like, we just sit down and talk a lot.
Right.
But we things like that. But so he gave me those books and I started reading up on it. And then he started taking me out on computer jobs, showing me how to, set the computers up, how to troubleshoot them and all those things like that. And so then my first tech job after he trained me was actually with Home Shopping Network.
I see.
So I was on their help desk, and this was, like I say, computers were still new.
Okay.
And this is when they would sell them damn computers in the middle of the night to little old ladies who ain't had nothing to do but spend money.
I can imagine.
So they would buy these damn computers and call us, and we had to try and walk them through setting them up. So you telling them to, move the mouse to a window, and they're like, "What the hell's a mouse?" And by what window? I don't need, they were taking it literal.
Oh man.
But thinking back on all those things, it's like it's experience that you gain that gives you that knowledge and wisdom, because you can't replace experience. You got to have the book sense, the book information, but you also have to have the experience as well. And this is also one of those things that I'll say this as well. I'm a firm believer in education and as an educator. I tell people all the time, college is a great way, but it's not the only way. And I think one of the things that people have to recognize is that if someone, whether a person goes through the traditional route of college or not, there shouldn't be the whole. I'm trying to use my words delicately here.
I understand.
But I'll just say there's a stigmatism that comes where if you don't go to college, you can't get to X or Y. And I'm here to say that's a lie. Without an education, you absolutely will not get anywhere. That's a non-starter. You have to be educated. You have to have knowledge along with experience to have the wisdom to make the best choices when those decisions are put in front of you. So that's when we talk about my backstory and how I get to where I'm at, that's where it comes from. Because I went from the Home Shopping Network doing work there, and then eventually I went and started doing consulting work with my ex-father-in-law.
I see.
And he was still my father-in-law at the time. And so, and that was kind of like my first experience in the world of a startup.
I see.
So he had it. It's funny, I'm sitting here now that we record, it's like, wow, I'm like, dang, I feel like I'm becoming my ex-father-in-law, because he always held his W-2 until he retired. But he always had his side businesses. And so he taught me how to navigate that space of, hey, let your W-2 fund all the other things that you do.
Sounds like there's an art to that.
It's an art to it.
It's a
balancing act.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act. And then you still have that, but you also have your family obligations as well. So it is one of the courses that I took in my leadership class was called what is it called? Juggling. I can't remember if it was juggling elephants or something about the different circles, and it talks about in all these aspects of life. You have your personal life, you have your business life, and then you have your me time.
Okay.
Because you have like your family, me, and then your business side, and you're juggling all these things, and none of them are going to always be the same. So anybody that talk about work-life balance, there is no such thing. You have to prioritize things, and sometimes this circle going to be big and be small, this one will be big, but then at other times this one's going to be small and this one's going to be big.
I see.
So if they ever all like this here, you ain't getting nowhere. You're going to have to prioritize things, and you have to learn how to delegate and do the things in the right order that they need to be done. But you don't want to become so enamored with it till you neglect these over here to where none of that gets done, because then you start dropping the balls.
Have you experienced, as we get ready to wrap up here, but have you experienced dropping the ball, and no right or wrong, and for the young folks out there listening, how does one, from your perspective, move forward or pick the balls back up and move forward? How does?
Oh, all the time. I mean, it's, yeah. I mean, I've dropped the ball several times, and the thing is I use the athletes analogy. Even when you drop the ball, you got to have a short memory. You can't focus on where you didn't excel. You have to make it as a lesson. You learn from it, and you refocus, and you learn from it, and you move forward. Because if you get so focused on, dang, what I did wrong, I didn't do this wrong, I didn't do that right, or whatever, then you get caught into that cycle of building up self-doubt. And so you have to try to have a short memory so you can move forward and know that you can't change the past. Tomorrow's gone and ain't never coming back.
Interesting. Did y'all catch that? You cannot change the past. It's never coming back.
It ain't coming back. But as long as you're alive and breathing and have hope and understand that you can always change your situation. And so that's my take on just dropping the ball and being able to pick it up, and then move on. And I've been blessed throughout my life to have great mentors, starting with my great grandfather, my grandfather, my father, my dad, my father-in-law, people that I've worked for. I've had great managers. I've had great leaders around me that have really poured into me. So that's kind of where I get my drive to try and mentor and try and share everything that I've learned. When you mentioned earlier about, being able to be about the business aspect of it, that came from having great leaders that taught me how to navigate the space of the business world, because it's different. And the business world is not like saying, well, I ain't gonna never change because I am who I am. Well, there's a thing called your natural being yourself, and that's called an adaptive thing. For people that haven't been exposed to Myers-Briggs, DISC, and all these different personality traits, look them up online. I promise you will learn more about yourself than you will ever understand.
I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, and you want to go deeper into relationship management, check out my website at www.ldhadvising.com. You can also book a relationship management session or even study relationship management yourself through my courses. I'll see you in my next episode.